Welcome back to the NExT Appraisal Tool modules. This module addresses question 17. Are the results of the statistical analyses clearly reported and interpreted? The answer to this question will be in the article's results section. Considerations when answering this question include, if a hypothesis was stated, do they clearly report whether the null hypothesis was rejected? If a research question was posed, how do the results answer the research question? If only a study purpose or aim was stated, how do the results address that study purpose or aim? When reporting results, authors typically start by describing characteristics of the sample. When a study has two or more groups, they should report whether characteristics differed across the groups. In this pilot randomized controlled trial by Dunn and colleagues that included people with ischemic heart disease, they examined an intervention to reduce hopelessness through enhanced physical activity. The text of the results section summarized the sample characteristics, and the table shows the details. Tables will show you how many subjects were included in the sample. A capital or upper N indicates the total sample size. A lowercase n is the sample size for each group. In this table, they report percentages along with the count of each value. For example, looking at sex, there were 7 females, which comprised 29.2% of the sample. We also see the p-value indicating whether there were statistical differences across groups. None of the values are less than 0.05, and therefore there were no statistically significant differences between groups. You can also evaluate if the results in the text match the information in the table or figure. If the information is not consistent, then you need to make a judgment about the credibility of the results. This study by Vonderheide and colleagues compared hospital charges between preterm infants in H-HOPE, a developmental intervention group, and a control group. In the full article, infant characteristics were described in Table 1, and this Table 2 describes the outcome hospital charges. Authors present several descriptive statistics, starting with the mean, median, and standard deviation. They also include a figure to illustrate the distribution of hospital charges, and that it was not normal. When reading the full article, as expected, in the methods section, these authors discuss this distribution of data and the selection of statistical tests. Let's look at a couple of excerpts from a study to answer our appraisal question. You may wish to pause the presentation to take a moment to read the text and review the figure. This RCT tested the effect of a preoperative patient educational program on postoperative delirium, anxiety, and knowledge. It also explored predictors of delirium, days on mechanical ventilation, and days in the intensive care unit. In the text, we see there was no statistical difference in delirium between groups, but there was a significantly greater improvement in knowledge among the patients in the educational group. This improvement is illustrated in their figure. This table shows the regression analysis examining the independent variables or predictors on delirium, duration of mechanical ventilation, and ICU length of stay. For each predictor, the beta column lists the change in the dependent variable. This is the size of the effect of each variable. We can compare the effect size of each variable by comparing the size of the betas. The p column shows whether each predictor was statistically significant. We see that the post-test knowledge was not a predictor of delirium with a p-value of 0.22, but greater knowledge predicted less time on the ventilator with a p equal 0.02. Below the list of predictors, we see an R-square and a p-value for each model. The R-square for the delirium model tells us that 17% of the variance in delirium was due to all the predictors. The very small p-value of 0.009 tells us that this regression model, with all these predictors, is statistically significant. Similarly, the R-square for the days of mechanical ventilation tells us that 30% of the variance in the duration of being on the ventilator is due to these predictors, with a statistically significant significance of p less than 0.01. Now let's form our response to the appraisal question based on these two excerpts. In reading the full article, you would see that this author reported descriptive statistics for all the variables to help the reader understand differences between study groups. Our response will focus on knowledge and delirium. These excerpts show that the authors did indeed clearly report results examining the effectiveness of the pre-op education, and they did so in both the text and the table. Overall, there was a greater increase in knowledge in the educational group, and knowledge reduced length of time on the ventilator. The authors made these results easy to understand. Congratulations! You successfully completed this module. You may return to the main menu or continue to the other appraisal modules and the NExT EVP course.